What's happening, everybody? Welcome back to the O Show. We are presented by Jack O'Hara TV. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe on our YouTube channel at Jack O'Hara TV. It's episode 617 of the pod, and today we are joined by a fellow East Coast man from Queens, Nick Dais. It's the first time he's a guest in Blue Wire Studios, which is crazy to me because you've been here for since what, like August, July?
September.
Close enough. Same shit.
Yeah, close enough. Summer
right?
still. Yeah.
It's great because you've been a guest on multiple different pods out here in the area, but because you work behind the scenes here, obviously in the video room. You've helped out with David Meltzer's show. I saw you in the credits.
Yep.
That came out the other day. You got a shout out.
Like,
you and the guys, Antoine as well, Brian Jones. Got to give a shout out to everybody in there. Jeremiah as well. He's back there. I don't want to sell him short either. Everybody got a shout out for David Meltzer's show. We were talking about before we went live that there was like 100 people in here almost.
Yeah, it's
show.
Always
it's hectic
when they come in. Yeah, but it's like controlled chaos, I like to call it. Mm-hmm. It's how I like to describe my show sometimes. Like we'll go off on tangents, but I always bring it back to like the main point that we were just discussing that led us down that road of chaos. But it's cool, man. He has a lot of people here. He gets a lot of interesting guests. I've had him on my show too, and he was awesome, and I got some good feedback on that. And it's always fun. It's cool because again, it's a surprise. The names, like he gets big names to just either come into the studio or to call in, and their setup is dope. They're professionals without question.
I think he's like the master and the perfectionist of time management. I remember the first time I had him on my show was over Zoom a couple years back. He's like, I got like 20 minutes. And it was literally like when we were done, he's like, all right, see you, Jack. Thanks so much for having me on. God bless. It was like 20:02. And I'm like, I got more out of that interview than I get with most people. Like, it was only 20 minutes, but he got out everything that I honestly wanted to get out of that interview.
So we've done about, you said this is episode 617. So I'm in like the 740s for veterans minimum, but I used to do 2 other podcasts before I just went all in on veterans minimum. I was doing a wrestling show because I'm a wrestling fan, as you can see the T-shirt over here.
It's a big day, Elimination Chamber Saturday.
Yeah. And I wore a wrestling shirt because I know that you're a mark just like I am. And then I was also doing a sports betting show with another buddy of mine. And then over time, the people I was doing veterans minimum with, they just didn't want to do the show anymore. After 4 years, like they grew out of it. They had other interests. I was like, yo, it's kind of the only thing I want to do. So I stopped doing the other shows because then I didn't want to be a host of 3 different shows. I'm like, let me just put it all into veterans minimum. Was the biggest of the 3 platforms. And then through that, like I'll talk wrestling sometimes. It's heavily sports betting influenced. And what I've gathered is when someone tells me that there's a certain amount of time that I can have them for, they tend to be the best conversations I have because there's not as much like messing around, right? Like I'm a big vibe and energy guy, and I rarely prepare for conversations. If I'm being honest with you, the one that I prepared the most for was I'm obsessed with Pablo Escobar and the Colombian cartel. I had the actual DEA agents, Javier Pena and Steve Murphy, on my show that Narcos is based on. That was the only time, dude, out of like the thousands of episodes I've done where I actually had stats and bullet points, like 3 pages worth of homework. But they also gave me 45 minutes. We ended up going an hour, but I prepared for 45 minutes. Mm-hmm. So I agree with what you said, and I could believe it to be true, where in 20 minutes you got more out of that than you probably would have for an hour.
Mm-hmm. And those are the best conversations, too, that you just mentioned, just like off the cuff. You feel certain vibes, certain energies from people. Like you and I, I'm like, okay, I've met him a few times. He's from Queens. He's a pro wrestling mark. Like, we're going to have a lot to talk about. It'll be easy. Those are the conversations I'm really, really excited for. Where Meltzer's a guy, he's like, he just knows. Like, you can get almost everything out of him. He's genuine. He speaks from the heart. He speaks, he wears his heart on his sleeve. Where some people, like you said, you have to prepare for. And there's certain episodes where you want to be on your best, like you want to make an impact.
Yeah.
Have that person be like, oh, they really did their research. They really know what they're talking about.
Yeah, don't get it twisted. I don't go in there completely blank. Like I might not have the questions in my notes on my phone, but I do know what I'm going to talk to them about, and I do my homework, and I try to ask them things that they might have not been asked before, or even just bringing up stories. Like people love talking about themselves. Right, so if you allow them to talk about themselves and what they're doing and what they got to promote, you'll get a lot out of them. That's what's worked for me all the years of doing content.
Mm-hmm. And what you started Veterans Minimum like 7 years ago, right?
Yeah, 2015 was I always mention the NFL preview show that I do around Labor Day weekend every year is the birthday for Veterans Minimum, because the first ever show I did was in 2015. It was a 2015 NFL preview show. So like that's always like the anniversary. Yeah, so I've been doing it since then.
Crazy. And then you said at the 4-year mark, you were doing the pro wrestling show, you're doing the gambling show, and then your buddies just kind of like phased out of it.
Yeah, I mean,
It's crazy. After 4 years, you phase out of it. Like, what is it like? The average podcast lasts around like 7 episodes. I feel like you figure out quick, like, I'm not really into this anymore.
Well, dude, it's hard to make people do things they don't want to do, right? I know it sounds so simple, but that's what I've noticed. Like, I have a big there's a door policy. Like, I don't ask anyone to do anything that they don't want to do, because then it's not genuine, and then you don't get their best foot forward. Yeah. So I was doing, after 1 year of Veterans Minimum, I was always a sports betting dude growing up. Like, I was always, at a young age, I got introduced to sports betting. And then even in high school, dude, I used to have like teachers come up to me and be like, what do you think of this line? And I was like 14, 15 years old. So I was always like, betting was always my thing. And then as I got older, I got more into it. And again, being like the sports dude, the sports betting dude in my friend group, a lot of people would just have those conversations with me. And then after 1 year, the fan base of Veterans Minimum, mind you, there's 4 other people there. A lot of them gravitated to me because they started learning so much about betting through me. And like, yo, yeah, you might think that this team is better than this team, but are they 11.5 points better? Probably not. There's a reason why that half point is the hook and it always gets you. Things like that. So I started using a lot of betting vernacular for them to understand, like, what exactly is a parlay? What's a round robin? What's a teaser? You know, over-unders, things like that. And for a sports bettor listening to this conversation now, they understand that. But when you're new to something, these are all key terms that you should know. Value. What does value mean? Right? Things like that. So after a year, I was like, you know what, man? I really believe that there's a different conversation to have about sports betting and sports. Like, you look at things from a completely different lens. And then I started doing a sports betting show called Degeneration Bets.
Dude.
I had the logo very similar to DX.
Dude.
So, you know, degenerates, degeneration. And one of my buddies is a rapper, Johnny.
Oh, did you put together an intro for you?
He put an intro together using the DX beat. And it was fire, man. And it was getting, at one point, it was doing better than Veterans Minimum. Because, like, we caught fire. Like, that first year that I did VM, dude, I picked like 70% against the spread, which is the best. I've yet to come even close to that. Like, that's wild. It's also 3 games a week. But that year, I was like 35-10. Like, it was something crazy. And then I used that as like a springboard to create sports betting content. And then the rest, as they say, is history.
Degeneration Bets.
Yeah. Yep. The whole 9, bro.
Degeneration Bets.
I'll show you some of the logos. You'll be like, dude, that's exactly like that.
I saw some of your episodes. You wear that DX shirt. I'm like, that is like a classic DX, just like the graffiti DX.
Oh, bro,
shirt.
I have way too many wrestling shirts, like a ton. And anytime I wear them out, I always get love from everybody.
So what are we thinking today for the Elimination Chamber? It's
Dude,
arguably the biggest main event in the history of that pay-per-view.
I mean, yeah. I never liked when they put those matches as like pay-per-views.
Yeah.
Right? Hell in a Cell.
Well, I think
TLC.
the whole Paul Levesque era, I think he's kind of trashing those.
Yeah.
Sounds like.
Yeah. And you're right, dude. It has a huge ass vibe because of Sami Zayn being from Montreal and that being there. It has a lot of, I was a big CM Punk fan.
Yeah.
Still am. But it has a lot of money in the bank in Chicago in 2011, his hometown. Now you got Sami Zayn, that being in his town. It's going to be fun, dude. I think that no matter what they do, I think it's going to be the right decision. But I also feel like they might prolong this even more.
They should. They've already gone 10 months deep into it.
Right.
Who would have thought we'd be here at this point saying that Sami Zayn is the hottest thing in professional wrestling?
It's well-deserved because this dude has been through the ringer, man, for all these years. And he was kind of a jobber at one point, too. And now to be in the spotlight, yeah, you never would have guessed that. And that's the coolest thing. Like, my favorite thing about wrestling is when it's super organic and it happens like it's not forced. Like, remember Kofi Mania?
Kofi Mania, Daniel Bryan.
Rusev Day got over on its own. And then
the whole Jericho-Owens friendship
thing.
Right.
And then it seems like whenever you have these things that happen and then WWE gets involved, that's when it kind of gets soured. And when things naturally happen, it's always the best. And not even just in wrestling, just in general. Like, you got to just let things happen organically. And then they seem to be more genuine and more authentic to your fan base.
Mm-hmm. And this is one of those instances, again, the Paul Levesque era, ladies and gentlemen. I think he listens. He sees what's going on.
I mean, dude, he's tapped in. He's tapped into like the New Japan stuff. He's tapped into indie wrestling and Ring of Honor. Like he's always been that ever since NXT. And dude, I used to have a hot take, and I would love to hear your thoughts on this. I feel like his legacy is gonna be for everything he did outside the ring as opposed to inside the ring. Yeah. And he's like a top 6 guy ever, in my opinion. Like, I think he's the best bad guy of all time. Like, when Triple H was a dick, it was like, bro, he's so good at it. Him, Orton, like when they're bad guys, it was the best. But I feel like what he's done with NXT, you look at all the top guys that WWE has now, they're all like his working. His guys at NXT, his guys and girls that then go to the main roster. Now they're top stars. And then with the NXT brand, I'm not into NXT as much as I am WWE now, but bro, there was like a 3-year stretch during like Finn Balor, Kevin Owens,
the whole black and gold era,
Nakamura, yeah, the undisputed era, like that was my shit, dude. They ran the Brooklyn SummerSlam weekend.
That's when Adam Cole made his debut.
Yeah,
right?
But they were doing those for like 5 straight years. They would have SummerSlam in Brooklyn, and it was Kevin Owens and Finn Balor were in a ladder match. Sasha, Bailey, that was in Brooklyn. Then Nakamura was in Brooklyn. Like, they had a lot of shit in Brooklyn. Yeah. And I would always go to the NXT event as opposed to SummerSlam, bro.
Yeah. Well, just think he also had William Regal in his back pocket, too. Yeah. Kind of directing him, too. Like, 2 masterminds of wrestling. I mean, his AEW run was, like, less than a year, but that whole combat group that he put together with Bryan Danielson, Jon Moxley, then he turned on it with MJF, only for him to turn on him. Yeah. MJF, Maxwell Jacob Friedman, arguably the biggest heel in wrestling. I think he's done tremendous work over on that side.
He's another New York guy. Long Island.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think, to me, when you look at like shoot versus work, right? And it's almost always a work. But MJF does such a good job in this era, in 2023, making it seem like he's a total dick. Even off camera, like meet and greets, he treats his fans like crap. There was that one clip that CVV did. Chris Van Vliet, the nicest guy in the world, right? Just like pro-Canadian. He's just like, oh, I'm CVV. Nobody gives a fuck, Chris. Get out of here. Yeah. Because he wanted to just get like 5 minutes of his time.
Yeah, he lives his gimmick, dude. And that's like a cool thing. When I remember The Undertaker was on Joe Rogan, and he was talking about how for years he only wore black. And he was always The Undertaker, whether it was on the streets, like he didn't do autographs, because he really lived that gimmick. And I think that like that was pretty cool, man. That was cool. We don't have that nowadays. One of the things that I hate the most right now in wrestling is when they spoil returns. Like, bro, the coolest thing used to be Royal Rumbles or even Monday Night Raws, like that authentic pop you would get when a guy would come back or a girl would come back. And bro, I remember one of my favorite moments in recent memory, and it sucks that they took that away with Cody this year. Cody Rhodes. They announced he was coming back at the Rumble, as opposed to imagine if like his theme song hit and a lot of people thought he might be coming back, but to have it announced, it kind of took that like organic reaction to it. Dude, when Kobe passed away, that was the same day that Edge came back from the Rumble. I wasn't even a big Kobe fan. I respect greatness, but I remember just the whole vibe around the world was just like, damn, dude, everyone was kind of just going through the motions. And I remember when Edge came out, bro, for those 3 minutes, it was like that shit was so cool. And the reaction, and I mean, his theme song, I think, is the best of all time. Also,
Alter Bridge is one of the greatest rock bands. Yeah. Today. Miles Kennedy's probably one of the best vocalists. So he gets that right. And if you watch, it was like a WWE 24 documentary that they did on Edge. He's like you. He's like, I miss the days where you were just shocked when someone came out, and he tried his absolute best. There were some people that are like, he might be returning. You know, he's going to see the doctor. He's going to see this. He's obviously in the best shape of his life. But when you hear "You Think You Know Me," I remember sitting in my dorm room just like on my phone while it's in the background, and I hear "You Think You Know Me." I'm just like, are you kidding me? Edge is back, and he looked phenomenal.
Dude, I was on my recliner at home, and I just had my hands on my chest just like this, and I was just laying down. And again, just on my phone also because I'm reading Twitter, any updates to like what happened with Kobe, and then you hear on this day, and I just was like, yo, what?
Like fans are crying, tears
Yeah,
coming down their
dude, like
face.
that was
You saw the look in his eye too when he's taking it all in before his
yeah.
pyro hit.
Yeah, and he had it so unfortunate. Like he was forced out because of injury. Right? Like a lot of guys, they want to go out on their own terms. That's why I love when you see fighters in the UFC when they go out on their own terms. It's like, why do we have to have you be a shell of yourself? Right? Like Drew Brees in the NFL. The last like 3 years, I was just every time I would record VM, I'd be like, yo, he's shot. He's a guy that used to throw 99, but now he throws 82. Right? Big Ben, same thing. Eli Manning, love Eli Manning. My first son's middle name, if not his first name, is going to be Eli. But he was not
Might
the
not
same.
be your decision, but
We'll figure it out. We have time for that. But he was not the same kind of player either. Brady leaves was like I felt like Brady should have retired last season because it was so poetic. He was second in the MVP voting. And the lasting memory of him was him coming back down 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter against the Rams. You tied it, and then Cooper Kupp and Stafford go bananas like they were all year. You lose the game, but it was like, yo, I did it one more time. Like I tied it, and I had every Rams better as someone that was financially invested in the Rams in that game and in the futures. I was like, this motherfucker did it again. Again. Like that would have been so cool if he just walked off there. And then he comes back this year, and it's like, yo, you came back. You lost your family to win, what, 8 games? Like, you get what I'm saying? So I love it when my favorite fighter of all time is GSP. He left on his own terms, and then he came back on his own terms. Habib, same thing. He's like, yo, you know what? Why? You see guys like Cowboy Cerrone who they just start getting knocked out by guys that they would have mauled
in their
just 2 years ago, and it's always so devastating. And to bring it back to Edge, he was a guy who he was forced out because of an injury. He didn't want to go out like that. And remember, like, dude, he was a top guy when he went. Like, he was a champ. He had to relinquish his belt. And main eventer, like, is Cena if it's not for him? Like, how many guys did Edge really make and help get over? So that was a cool-ass moment, man. And those are some of my favorite things about wrestling.
I think the main event at WrestleMania 37 between Roman, Edge, and Daniel Bryan had great serendipity because those were 3 guys that were told, you're done. Daniel Bryan had to retire because of concussion protocol. Edge had to retire because of a broken neck. Roman had leukemia. They were all told at one point in time, you're never going to wrestle again. And they all came back, and they're all in the main event at the biggest show in professional wrestling, which I thought was so cool.
Dude, you're so right. I forgot about that. Yeah, I remember the Monday Night Raw when Roman came out. And he was like, yo, my name is Joe. This isn't Roman talking. And then he was making, he made that announcement too. And I remember just being like so devastated, dude. Like, I've always been a Roman guy. I've always been a Roman guy. And to see that happen, like, obviously, in the grand scheme of things, it was way worse than him, like, leaving wrestling, like the things he had to deal with. But I never thought about that, dude. That's a hell of a point. All 3 of them having to fight back from something so drastic.
I thought it was so cool that they kind of inserted, because that was like Daniel Bryan's second time. Like, he wasn't the quote unquote like scripted story that year, but they're like, we got to insert him. And it was during COVID too. So I feel like they kind of were just like, I guess he's hot right now. Fans are reacting to it on Twitter. I guess that's where they were pulling from, because it was going to be Edge Roman. And then at the last second, kind of like with Orton and Batista, they just knew that wasn't going to get over. So they just insert the fan favorite. And they might have to do that this year with Sami Zayn. I don't know what they're going to do though, because a lot of people say that whole bloodline story revolved around Jey Uso and Sami Zayn. So they could easily just have him go after the tag titles and have Roman face Cody. But you have arguably 2 of the most over baby faces in recent memory with Sami Zayn and Cody Rhodes, both vying for arguably the biggest star in professional wrestling of the last 25 years in Roman Reigns.
25 years?
I'd say so. Well, okay, look at it for obviously there's the Cenas and Rocks.
I would say in like the last, because like, dude, Daniel Bryan was big too, man. Like that Bryan and then Cena. People have had their moments, but like this was more like a movement, I would say.
Yeah.
And I always like to try to make the case for them two being different. And I would say in the last like 5 years, it would have to be like Roman, no question. right? Like,
From a global standpoint and a revenue standpoint, I think he's brought in more money than I think Cena ever did, just because of today's world, you know?
dude, Cena had a new shirt like every 6 months, and they were always selling out.
That's where he made all of his money.
Yeah. But I mean, dude, he's in the discussion, right? So like we're nitpicking at this point. It becomes preference as well. But I think that he definitely is in that conversation. So it's not really as crazy as it take to think of it that way.
Yeah. Do you think that they're going to do Reigns versus Rhodes straight up? Like that's the plan? Because it isn't like an Orton Batista situation where they turned on Dave like within 2 weeks when he came back, right? Like Cody Rhodes is arguably the most over wrestler right now, who is cutting arguably the best promo work of his entire life.
Yeah, I also think Paul Heyman has a lot to do with that too.
Yeah.
Dude, Heyman is. I was an ECW stan, dude. I used to love ECW. I never got a chance to go. My mom didn't let me when I was younger. I've told this story many times before, but I think you'll get a kick of it as a wrestling fan. How I was like 7 years old, and I had an older family friend, but he was my cousin. I would say he was my cousin, and he was like 19, and we were gonna go to Philly for ECW pay-per-view, and I had it on TV, and my mom comes in as she finishes the laundry. She's putting away my laundry, and original Gangsta New Jack was staple gunning someone. And my mom was like, "Is this what you want to go see?" And I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "You ain't going to that." You ain't going to that. And then Sabu came out, and he was a character. And then Taz came out, the Dudley Boys. So I never got to experience that. But wrestling has always been something, man, that it's always been like a huge part of my life. And when you think of it like ECW and Paul Heyman, to bring that back, he's been around for so long, and he elevates everyone. Like, is Roman as big as he is now if Paul Heyman isn't by his side? I think that was strategically planned on their behalf also. Like, I remember that first promo where, like, Roman is on the couch, and he kind of, like, slow camera shot pans over to Paul Heyman.
Or he, like, used his catchphrase. He's like, that's not a prediction. That's
and then
a
he
spoiler.
yeah.
Wait a minute. And the
And
slow
then,
pan over, you're like, oh. And it makes perfect sense because Paul Heyman's been around that whole Samoan, like his family for generations.
That and also just the business, and when it comes to mic work, like that guy is top of the food chain too. You know,
And he's been doing it for 3-4 decades.
Yeah, for a non-wrestler, he's the best guy on the mic ever. The best manager, best sidekick, best whatever you want to call it. Like there's been like Triple H is great on the mic, but like he's a wrestler to me, right? Like Vince was obviously Vince because that was his company, but for a guy,
those guys were in the trenches every day,
right? For a guy who never had a match and was in the ring, like Paul Heyman is number one without question.
You ever hear his story of how he broke into the business and met Vince? He like snuck out of his house late at night, took a train into the city, and like snuck his way into an event.
I watched his documentary on the network, and he was talking about how like he was like 14, 15 years old. Yeah, man, you got to get shit done. You got to put your name out there, especially when you're trying to build something from the ground up, and when you're an unknown and you're not a cast off like formerly of CBS Sports or formerly of ESPN. When you're just someone like we are, like building our own content and building our own brand, like I don't know about you, but I don't have a manager or an agent. No. Like I have to be that as well as the host and
I don't have the money to hire one.
Yeah, and like being the director of the show and the whole nine, it's like you have to do that. Like if you're not putting yourself over, you would understand this because there's sometimes like I'll have guests on, I'll be like, oh, you just put me over, and they're like, what? It's like, oh, you're not a wrestling fan, you don't get it. But like you have to, because you have to be your biggest critic, your biggest fan, and you also have to be the person that's gonna go to bat for you. Because if not you, who?
Who's someone that you relate to the most in professional wrestling? That you say my grit is kind of like this person's grit.
I mean, bro, my favorite human I think of all time is Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Yeah.
Like DTA, don't trust anyone. Like shit
Hellraiser,
like that.
dude.
I mean, I trust people. I don't want to come off as that guy, but like, you know, having a
always have your antenna up.
Yeah, you have to. You have to. And I don't know, I have a good sense of like sniffing out people's BS. Like very early. And I could see like who genuinely looks out for me and who kind of just like wants something. And you know, I'm kind of like the same with everybody. You know, I don't have no ill will, no ill intentions with anything. I'm naturally a curious dude. And sometimes that could come off as like, what are you fishing for? Are you really that? But until you get to know me, then you understand like, oh, yo, that's just Nick. That's just how he is.
Yeah. And you find other people like that that are exactly like you. Like I'm curious as hell and I'll ask questions that some people think are like deep questions to ask someone when you first meet them. You're like, how did you know that? Like, what are you up to?
Yeah. Yeah, man. And I also like surrounding myself with people that know a lot more than me, and especially when it's in a field that I want to get better at. Right? Like when I first moved out here from New York, I got the opportunity to work, to create my content here, but also to work behind the scenes too. And there was a lot of the equipment that I was familiar with, but it's different when I had a $200 recording device, and now there's like a $4,000 recording device, or like the Black Magic switcher, like the one that I had like 7 buttons on it. This one has like 70. So but I surround myself with the people that know, and they're an expert there, and it's like, yo, be open-minded. Keep your mouth shut, eyes open, ears open, take it in, and then go from there. And also, like in my DNA, I'm just like a get shit done. Like under no circumstances, like no matter what, you just got to figure it out, man. You just have to.
Always have a sense of urgency. I can't stand people that are just kind of like walking through life, just being like, oh, this is cool, like just standing around. Like there'll be people out here and they'll hear me, so I'm just gonna say it. There's people that'll just be like, oh, looking up, and I'm like walking, and I'm just like, all right, get out of the way, man. Like,
yeah, I mean, I think there's
places to be.
I think there's a time and place for all that, but some of my closest friends, they're guys that are always chilling. Like they're always chilling. They're always on Xbox. They're not going out. They're not working. They're kind of just always chilling. It's like, damn, dude, how can you, like, on days that I have off from here, 2 jiu-jitsu classes, a lift, editing something, like going back to old edits to cut new clips if they're relevant. Because like a lot of the content, like maybe I said something in February of last year that played out now with the Super Bowl. Like I was big on A.J. Brown going to the Eagles when they first got him around the draft in April. It's like, well, you saw the game that A.J. Brown had in the Super Bowl, had almost 100 yards, had a bunch of catches, and scores a touchdown. But then you saw what it did for Jalen Hurts. And that was something I was saying back in April. Like, yo, yeah, you're going to pay this big money for A.J. Brown, but if it validates Jalen Hurts as your franchise guy and it elevates his game, which it did, it's like it's a home run play. And I was coining him like the steal of free agency. It wasn't a free agent, but I consider anyone that moves to a new team like kind of a free agent, right? You're at a new place. And then on days where I'm off, like I'll go back and I'll even like resurface clips from when I was back in Queens. It's just like constantly, I can't just sit and like not do something, bro. It doesn't sit well with me. And I think I get that from my pops. Like my dad is off the boat Greek. He came here with no paperwork, no green card, nothing, and just, self-employed. And the ultimate definition of like, yo, if you don't work, you don't eat. There's no like, I'm gonna take a sick day and I'll get paid. It's like, nah, bro, you take a sick day, you ain't getting paid. So to me, like always, I can't be around people like that, man, because then I feel like a piece of trash just sitting home doing nothing. Dude, it was a couple weeks ago, like on a Sunday, my day off, like on my Sunday, I was on Xbox for like 12 hours. When I got off, I was like, I'm not playing this for like a week. And I didn't play for a week. I was like, that's excessive.
You're almost like disgusted with yourself after.
Yeah, you feel shitty, dude. I ate 2 meals while playing Xbox. Like I didn't turn it off. It's like, yo, bro, put the controller down. Go be productive.
Yeah. What was that whole scenario like? Because I've heard you talk about it on podcasts all the time. The story of you dropping out of school and, talking to your parents about that. Like you said, like your dad, a hardworking individual, probably didn't understand it at first. We're like guys like you and me, like we see where this is all heading, right?
It's the new game, man. It's a different generation. And you just got to understand that like people like my dad or my dad's age, they grew up completely different. So that's why it always like, I always get upset when I hear people being upset at different generations. Like, bro, you just didn't understand it, right? Like, dude, I still remember like being like 5, 6 years old and my parents having to get to places with fucking directions like written down on a piece of paper. You know what I mean? Like now we can get anywhere. Dude, we can get anywhere with just our phones. Right. I remember being in a psychology class in Buffalo. I went to school in Buffalo, and the first day, like the orientation, no, it was like syllabus day where they give you the syllabus. And our professor I don't have my phone on me, but he has like an encyclopedia, a phone book, a map. He has like 25 different things on a desk this size. And then he takes out his phone. He goes, you guys, and this was 2009, 2010, BlackBerry. He's like, you guys have all of this shit here. So he's like, I don't want to hear that you guys can't figure out something. I don't want to hear that you guys can't do something. It's all right here. I had to go through all this shit. Like, dude, we can even measure things now with our phones. Like from one angle, like if I wanted the dimensions of this room, I could do it. You know, like there's so much shit. So my dad didn't understand, why are people listening to you? You're not on ESPN. You're not on Fox. Like what? He didn't get it. And he's not supposed to, because it's not his generation. It's not his time to understand like the technology and how it's moving. And for me, it was the only thing I wanted to do, dude. And this was like 6 months into me creating content. I was just like, yo, there's something here. I get good feedback from people that I don't know, right? Like sometimes like your friends might, you know, brown nose and like, yeah, Jack, you're doing great. But I think when you get genuine interactions for people that don't have a dog in the race, like to me, that means a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I just didn't want to do that school stuff no more, dude. I don't think school is bad, but I think school is important because then it might make you realize that it ain't for you, right? And that's what it was for me. And yeah, I just dropped out with like 24 credits to go. I was like, yeah, I'm not doing this.
That's the craziest part too. You were right there at the finish line.
Yeah.
You're like, I don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah, but there was no plan for it, dude. I was gonna have a business administration degree, and it's like, congrats. Like
You and 12,000 other people.
Yeah, and I had
Queens.
no intentions of doing anything with it, honestly. It was, dude, everything until I was like, truthfully, bro, until I was like 27 was for other people. It was to validate like my parents and to make them happy and to make family members happy and all this stuff. And it was like, man, this isn't what I want to do, like at all. This is what I want to do. And every couple of months, some dope shit would happen that would be like, all right, man, this is working. Like, that's my thing. Like, this stuff is working. The show, I don't look at the show episode to episode or week to week or even month to month, year to year. 2022 did better than 2021. Whew. The show doesn't suck. The show is growing. It's doing better. More people are seeing it from a social standpoint, download standpoint, which is in podcasting, that's like the big number. Like, how many views do you get on your YouTube video? That is for podcasting what downloads are, right? Those are going up. And it's a marathon, man. It's not a sprint. Mm-hmm. So just continuing to evolve, add new things. Don't let it grow stale to you. And just evolving. That's really the biggest thing that's helped me.
And that's always the toughest part, too, starting out, where it's like, oh, you're building your brand. You're not going to be making that much money, but you have to look at it almost year by year. It's not a thing that's going to happen in the first 10 episodes, first 100 episodes, first 300 episodes. You never really know when it's going to hit for you.
Yeah.
But you have to do it because it's the thing that you do. It's the thing that sets your soul on fire. You wouldn't want to do anything else. It's not fun. Like, I've had jobs where it's like I've made good money, but I wasn't loving what I was doing.
Yeah.
And that gets to you.
Yeah, I think if you asked any of my friends growing up, they would tell you that I was going to do something in sports.
Mm-hmm.
Like, my dream job, bro, was to be a football coach. Like, outside of my father, my two high school football coaches are like the most important men figures in my life that like really taught me how to be a man and leadership and being accountable. Like, I'll never forget the one time we were playing this one game and I was the quarterback in my high school and this one kid dropped like 4 passes in one game. And I mean, just like on the numbers, like walk-in touchdowns.
Couldn't have been a better pass.
Yeah, like, you know when they say like you could have just walked over and dropped it in the breadbasket kind of throws? And after the game, I'm just like chewing into him. I'm going off. I'm like, what the fuck, dude? Like, you're ruining my stats and shit. And even though we won the game, I was still like, yo, you left 2 touchdowns off the board. And my coach just pulled me aside. He's like, hey, man, no one feels worse than the kid that makes a mistake. So you don't need to tell him all that. And I was just like, huh. I was like, you're right. Because no one, he's like, when you throw an interception, who feels the worst? I'm like, me. He's like, when you fumble, when you make the bad decision, when you audible out of something and you give it to your running back and he just gets tattooed by 2 linebackers that you weren't supposed to put him there, who feels the worst? I'm like, me. He's like, yeah, the kid feels the same way. You think he wanted to drop those passes? And it's like little life lessons that you learn in those scenarios that, dude, everything I think that has like made me the man I am today has had nothing to do with school. It's been like the life lessons I learned on like the fields of playing and being disciplined and then like working with my dad. I think I'd be an airhead if I didn't work with my dad all those years in the city and like the human element, human interactions and dealing with homeless customers that we would give free donuts and coffees to like CEOs of like $500 million companies and shit coming, and like the plethora of just people that were just coming, you know, from all walks of life. And you just learn like certain things and just how to like interact with people.
Did you grow up a Mets fan?
Yeah, grew up in Queens, man. Yeah.
Flushing.
But what's crazy is Citi Field and Shea Stadium, I always would say was in my backyard because it was like 3 bus stops from my crib there. But also my uncle, who's a NYPD police officer, he's a Met fan. So growing up, he would take me to Met games. But my entire family is Yankee fans outside of him. So I always say Uncle Mike fucked it up for me.
Yeah, all the East Coasters watching. Nick's one of those weirdos that's a Mets and a Giants fan. You almost never get that.
You
that
don't,
combo.
no.
It's
you
either
don't.
Yankees, Giants, Mets, Jets.
Yeah.
A few Yankee Jets fans. But you're a Giant and Mets fan.
Yeah.
A lot of pain.
Nah, man. I saw 2. I saw 2 with the Giants.
That's fair.
I saw 2 live with the Giants too. It's yeah, it hasn't been a lot of heartbreak for sure, but I saw 2 championships. There's a lot of people that haven't seen any, like in any of their sports teams. So I can't complain. It's been fun.
Been a Cowboy fan for 23 years. Still waiting.
Oh, dude, you're gonna be waiting for a while, my friend.
I was one of those kids growing up. I'm like, we have 5 championships. It's like you weren't alive for any of them. Kid.
Nah, you have to. So this is another thing that like people get triggered by, where they'll be running jokes of like, if it didn't happen in your age while you were alive, like it didn't count. I wouldn't go that far, but I don't tell people, like if I was a Yankee fan, like the 27 rings thing, it's like, bro, how many of them, like anything north of the 90s, you should consider.
Mm-hmm.
Especially now where it's like so, like the sports evolve so much. Like these records that like Will Chamberlain has and Bill Russell, where I think they were the only like 7-footers in the league, and like George Mikan, and then the fourth like tallest guy was like 6'8". It's like, yeah, no wonder why you're getting 20 rebounds a game. Like the game's just changed, dude. And 20, 30 years from now, there's gonna be a quarterback that's gonna be 10 times the athlete that Pat Mahomes is. It's just the evolution.
It's crazy to think about because Pat Mahomes is the total package right now.
Oh yeah, he's the best to ever do it already. I don't need to wait for his career to be over. I think talent wise, he's the best quarterback I've ever seen.
Do you think it'll come down to numbers for him at the end to consider him the GOAT?
Well, yeah, it always comes down to numbers. It's always about
or rings, I should say.
Yeah, but I think that's the biggest. So, like, you as a sports fan, as you've gotten older, what's the one thing that's changed for you? Like what you believed as a kid and what you believe now. What's the one thing that has changed for you?
Is there a specific answer for that?
No, there isn't. It's all subjective to you. Like for me, it used to always be rings. Like, nah, he ain't shit. He didn't win. He only won 2. He only won 3.
I still think that's very important. It's changed a little bit.
So I think I think if you want to be an all-time great, you need to win at least 1. That I agree with you. But then after you win 1, like the difference between 1 and 2, 1 and 3, 1 and 6 is drastic. But when you start entering that territory of like, now Mahomes has 2. There's only like 8 quarterbacks that have won 2 Super Bowls. I think it's 8. I'm pretty sure it's 8. But it's like, all right, he might not get to 7. He's the closest one to it, because especially if you look at like Brady and him through their first 5 seasons, Brady had 3. Mahomes has been to 3, but he has 2. But Brady was the epitome of a game manager then, right? Like he had Bruschi and Seymour and Harrison. Like they had those defenses that carried him. And yeah, he made plays, but you didn't get Brady, bro, until like 07 when they get Moss and Welker. And I remember I got Brady in like the 10th round of my fantasy league, dude. And then I got Moss like 15th round. And they were putting up like 70 points a week, just them two. And that's when it was like, oh shit, this dude could throw 40 touchdowns a year. And that's what you saw. So from like 2017 until he retired, that was when you saw Brady actually be the reason why his team was winning, where I think early on it wasn't. And then on the flip side with Mahomes, he's the reason why his team wins. Like he's the one that's throwing 40, 50 touchdowns a year, and he's the main reason why they win, where Brady wasn't early on. So that's the question. Like, Trent Dilfer has won a Super Bowl, right? Like Jeff Hostetler won a Super Bowl with the Giants when he stepped in the regular season. He gets hurt, and it's like Is he better than Marino because he has a Super Bowl? Like, that's dumb. But when you're talking about like Elway and Mahomes, who's better? Like, they're on a level playing field.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, I think the one thing that's changed the most is like, bro, it's hard to win a championship, dude. You need to have a competent owner, competent president, competent GM, head coach. You need the right quarterback. And then you need to have players around them. And not even quarterback, just in any sport. You need guys to stay healthy. Like, LeBron has lost all these finals because, like, he had Kyrie and Kevin Love out. And then the other one, he has Kyrie out. And then the other one, it's like Love is hobbled. And then you're looking at it, it's like, is it really his fault?
Mm-hmm.
If any team loses their second and third guy, they're going to be in trouble. Milwaukee last year, I bet them to win the finals. And then Middleton gets hurt. And it's like, yeah, dude, you think if Klay Thompson was hurt last year, the Warriors win? If Andrew Wiggins went down, it's like, bro, it's important for you to have.
Well,
so
two
much
of
shit.
those LeBron losses were against those Warrior teams in the like 2015, 2016, 2017 era, where they were just unstoppable. Especially the second time around when they had KD, it's like that team wasn't losing.
Well, yeah, that was the thing, right? Like the first time that the Warriors and the Cavs played each other, that was when Kyrie and Kevin Love went down, and then Deladova had to get rushed to the ER for an IV because that was the most time that he played, and he was exhausted. It's like, all right, we're blaming LeBron for that finals loss when Iguodala won finals MVP because he contained LeBron, and LeBron was averaging like 33, 12, and 8. It's like, all right, great containment that you had.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's like sometimes the standard is set so high where you get the fatigue from the media. Right? Like for so long, it was like, well, LeBron's the MVP every year, but we got to give it to someone else. Brady's the best quarterback in the league, but we got to make these conversations about all these other guys to create a buzz, to create attention for the other players. And you're going to see Mahomes is going to experience that too. Two Super Bowl wins in 5 years, 3 Super Bowls he's been to, 2 MVPs he's won. It's like eventually, like next year, it's going to be the same thing. It'll be like, oh, it's going to be Herbert. It's going to be Joe Burrow. It's going to be Josh Allen or Trevor Lawrence. But it's like, it's always going to be Mahomes 1 for as long as he's in the league.
We're going into a great era with a lot of great young quarterbacks. When you look at Pat Mahomes, 50 feet of crap, then you have Joe Burrow, you have Trevor Lawrence. Rodgers is going to stick around for a couple more years. He's considered the best quarterback, at least from like a legend standpoint, in the league today, right?
Yeah. He's the old head now. And I mean, look, we're not that far removed from him being a back-to-back MVP winner. Mm-hmm. So it's not exactly that. We have Josh Allen. We have a lot of guys. Some of the new guys that are coming out this year. It's a pretty heavily QB influenced class. Jury's still out on guys like Justin Herbert. Not really Herbert. Justin Fields, I should say. You have Herbert also.
Derek Carr, very talented.
Derek Carr, yeah. And I'm telling you now, man, watch out for Russell Wilson in the Broncos.
Really?
Yeah. I think Sean Payton going over there. I can't stop looking at 40-1 for them to win the Super Bowl. I was talking about it on my show, so we'll have.
Can you imagine after the season they had this year, just a complete and utter disappointment to come from?
So I love that you say that because as someone that takes betting very seriously, a lot of the conversations often influence the lines, and public perception is a big thing. Narratives are a big thing. So when I was telling a lot of my friends, I made a lot of money on the Broncos this year because they'd be 9, 10-point underdogs. And I would say that's the best bet of the week. And everyone's like, dude, their offense sucks. They can't move the ball. It's like, you are absolutely right. But we're not betting on the offense. They had the best defense in the league. And the reason why I think they had a better defense than what San Francisco had, because San Francisco had a competent offense that could score points and allow them to pin their ears back and then let Nick Bosa, who wins Defensive Player of the Year, go out there and have the season that he had. And Tafunga in the secondary as a rookie makes an all-pro team. And Fred Warner, it's like all these guys have an offense that could score some points where Denver didn't have that. And Denver was going toe-to-toe with the Chiefs. They played that game against Baltimore that they ended up losing. They lost those games, but like they kept those games really close. It's because that defense is really good. So when I say to people, unless, and this is the biggest thing, unless he's completely shot, that he being Russell Wilson, which I don't think so. I think it was just Hackett didn't work out with him. The new weapons didn't work out with him. Now you're going to have another year with those guys. You have a lot of guys on contract years, which I love. Judy, the running backs. and now Sean Payton's in there. It's like, all right, bro, we're betting on Sean Payton now. I think at 40-1, that's as far down the list as I would go to make a bet on someone to win the Super Bowl. Yeah. I think they're gonna be, and again, it's like they gotta play Herbert twice, they gotta play Mahomes twice. I wish they were on the NFC side. If they were on the NFC, they'd probably be like 20-1, about half of that. But the AFC is so loaded. But yeah, I think that's the best. That might be the best long shot bet right now that you can make. And it's never too early to make those bets too. Like I bet when the Rams won the Super Bowl, it was when they got Matthew Stafford in a trade, and that was in March. Why do I have to wait until August to make that? I might be losing points. Might be losing good odds on that. Especially once the conversations start to change as you get closer.
That's right.
Same thing happened to the Chiefs this year, bro. Everybody was off Kansas City because they lost Tyreek Hill. And then people were saying that Mahomes was going to get exposed. Kelsey was going to get exposed. It's like, all right. I picked Mahomes to win MVP 10-1. And it was the y'all must have forgot year. And again, it's always going to be Mahomes. He's at the top of the pyramid by himself. And then you want to put Burrow, Herbert, Allen together, cool. But we're never having that conversation with Mahomes in that. Like, nah.
He's separated himself with the 2 rings.
Yeah. And especially, like, bro, the Chiefs were in a rebuild year this year. They were in a rebuild. Like, that's wild for them to be in a rebuild. And they won the Super Bowl. All right?
I mean, Travis Kelce went off, too.
Yeah, Kelce.
That guy always found a way to find himself wide open.
They have great chemistry together on and off the field. And a lot of the Mahomes magic that they've coined is when he improvs out the pocket, when the play breaks down and it's off script, and that's when he finds Kelce, where it's a 6-yard catch that turns into 26 yards. It's like them two they're the best duo in the league, and they might have been that for a long time now. But that was another thing, like, Kelsey's gonna get exposed because they don't have Tyreek Hill. And then you look at the roster that they won the Super Bowl. They had all their draft picks in this past year's class, all the rookies, recorded a stat in the Super Bowl. And then you look at their draft class from 2021, 2 offensive linemen that are starters, and then the rookie, Nick Bolton. Well, not rookie. Second-year guy, Nick Bolton, scores that touchdown against the Eagles. It's like, bro, that's great. What we were talking about before. It's hard for you to win a championship, bro. The ownership hired the right GM and scout team that they're able to find Isaiah Pacheco in the 7th round, Jalen Watson, Brian Cook, late round picks that are DBs that are making plays for you. And that's important. And then everyone stayed healthy too. They had no bad injury. Mahomes got hurt, banged up his ankle in the playoffs, but like he still played.
Yep.
Right? And they've
only amplifies him too.
Right. His aura just goes 10x. So yeah, that's the kind of things that you look at as a sports bettor, dude. Like I can tell you right now, taking unders on Minnesota, taking unders win total standpoint, taking unders on Minnesota, taking unders on the Philadelphia Eagles. They've already lost both of their coordinators. That's big. This might be a homer pick, or I might be biased here, but I think a team like the Giants, I wouldn't take unders on because they're also going to play a 3rd place schedule. So that's something that you got to consider. And somehow, some way, they freed up a lot of cap space during the season with some of the moves that they made. But those are the kind of things that you look at. Like Minnesota had the best record in NFL history in 1-score games, and that's just now replicated year in, year out. So right off the bat, like gonna be down on Philly, gonna be down on Dallas, gonna be down on Minnesota.
You're already ready for the season.
Yeah,
Bring on September,
dude. It's, if you really think about it, bro, the NFL and the NBA are 12-month-a-year sports, right?
Yeah.
Season just ended in February. We're still having the conversation about the Super Bowl. In 2 weeks is free agency, right? So who's going where? Then you have that first wave of free agents. Then you get the second wave of free agents that sign. That's basically your month of March. April is leading up to the draft. May, someone might get traded, right? And then before you know it, you're at OTAs. And then it's June. You have the NBA Finals that coincides. And then you're in July, you're at camp. So it's like it's a 12-month-a-year
Don't
sport,
forget
dude.
us baseball fans over here. Pitchers and catchers reported last week. They always get the bad rub, the rub at the end. They're like, oh, yeah, baseball's here too.
Listen, man, I'm a big Mets fan, but I'm not like a baseball fan.
Yeah.
It's a
You
tough,
and a lot of people.
it's a tough sport for you to get people to, especially me, who's like a general podcast. Like I'm not just covering the Mets.
Yeah.
I'm not just covering the Padres, but even like the World Series, those numbers don't do as well. Sunday Night Baseball, they try to market it, and it just doesn't work because like nationally, it's a tough sell. It's a tough sport to sell. Whereas regionally, you look at some of the regional numbers, like the ratings that come in, like Yes Network is at the top in New York, but how many people in like Wyoming care about the Yankees or like care about what the Mets are doing? So that's why it's a little bit difficult to market from a national standpoint. Like, dude, some of like the biggest names in baseball, like, would you recognize them if they're walking down?
That's very true. I mean, I live close to Old Town Scottsdale. You got Christian Yelich, Cody Bellinger, just like walking the mall. I'll be like, wait a minute, was that Cody Bellinger? Like nobody cares.
Yeah, I saw Bryce Harper at I saw him at a Whole Foods. I just did a double take, and I was just like, oh shit. I was like, yo, big fan, dude. That's what I tell everyone. Like, yo, big fan. Even though I want to be like, yo, you killed the Mets all these years, you fuck. You know, like you want to troll them. But yeah, you just see people like wandering around. But there was and he was by himself, no posse, nothing. And it's like, bro, that's a $400 million guy. Like, what the hell? Like, he's one of the best players in baseball. And just maybe in Philly, it's different, right? Especially now in Philly or in Washington, like it's different. But I just think that baseball struggles on a national level. And you look at all the numbers, like it's the only sport, in my opinion. I would love to hear your thoughts on this because you're like in the trenches with it. The longer the game goes, the less interesting it becomes.
That's fair. I mean, as a baseball fan, like baseball purists will disagree with you, but like in the NFL and the NBA, anybody could sit through those games because they're always entertaining.
But I also think like if you and I go to a baseball game and it goes into extra innings, how many innings? And it's a Tuesday night and it's 11:30 in the East Coast. We have work the next day. We got to be up at 5 a.m. How long are we realistically staying until?
What time of year?
Whatever. Pick
if it's September, October pennant race, we're staying. If it's May, if it's May.
If it's a playoff game, without question, you're staying. But
if it's like April, May.
If it's, May 17th.
Yeah.
Where you also don't know when the games are going to end. Like, you know for a fact, one of the reasons why, and there's always a debate between soccer and baseball, right? Like, there's always like those two fan bases and like the purists, like they butt heads all the time. I think the biggest appeal with soccer, for as boring as people might think it is, you know when games are going to end. You know if a game starts at 10 o'clock, it's going to end by 12, right? When it's World Cup time, it might end by 1 because of extra time and penalty kicks. But you could make plans. Dude, I'll never forget there was one time we were going to go out to dinner, my friends and I, and there was a Red Sox-Yankees game that started at 4:05 East Coast.
Those are always the longest games.
And we're like, yo, when are we going to go out to dinner? And they're like, yo, when the game ends. It was a 6-hour and 12-minute game. The game ended at like 10:15.
9 innings?
No, it was like 13 innings. But even some of the 9-inning Red Sox-Yankee games are like 4 hours. And then all my friends were like, well, we're not going to dinner now. I was like, yeah, no shit. You can't say. But if it was a soccer game, if it was an NBA game, it's like, yeah, yo, after the game, we'll go. Because you know there's a 3-hour window where that game is going to conclude. Baseball, you don't.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the biggest mistake baseball makes is, and again, you'd be perfect to answer this because us two are like, I'm the casual, you're like the diehard baseball fan. Don't you feel like they try to do too much to cater to me?
Oh,
doesn't
100%.
care.
And they do a very poor job at catering to the average fan, too.
Right.
Like, look at the Manning cast. Eli and Peyton. There's, like, NFL purists that say that's not an awesome show. But those guys, I think it's very, very good considering that they're brothers and they have great chemistry, right?
Yeah.
And it works. Where Major League Baseball put Michael Kay, who's the voice of the Yankees, with A-Rod, who's honestly, like, he does a good job as a former player. He knows what he's doing, but like he kind of tries to be too flashy sometimes. Not the best analyst, not a fan favorite. Like a David Ortiz would have been better for that role. But they brought those two together for like the Manning cast type show on ESPN to have like a hangout show. And those guys have no chemistry at all. Those guys don't hang out together.
But don't you think with them trying to do a lot for me is souring you? Do you feel that way?
Mm-hmm.
Like this pitch clock thing where they want pitches out in like 25 seconds or whatever they've been experimenting, and like bigger bases and shit like that. It's like you're trying to cater it to Nick, who's a casual, who cares about one team, but then Jack is getting sour because now Jack don't like it.
Yep.
Is that the case?
Yeah. I mean, I do understand time management. I think we definitely need to get the games speeding up a little bit.
Right.
Pitchers take a long time. Hitters take a long time to get into the box. I definitely agree with the aspect of having like a 15-second in between pitch clock, or else it's like if the batter's not in the box, it's a strike, or if the pitcher doesn't throw the ball in time, it's a ball, you know? And that, I think in big games, like playoff games, that shouldn't be allowed, but normal regular season games throughout the season, I completely understand it from that aspect. I just know as a baseball purist, I think those fans are always going to be the ones that stick around the longest, and I think MLB needs to recognize that we're doing all right with the people that have been watching for years on end.
Right, but I think the only way you could grow is to get new fans in. Like the UFC no one has a higher return rate than the UFC. Like year over year, when you bring 10 of your buddies to a bar and they've never watched UFC, and you have them watch a UFC fight, and if it's a dope card, half of them will probably be like, yo, Jack, when's the next one, bro?
Yeah.
It's not always the case with any other sport. Like you might even, like we've had some shitty Super Bowls. Like the Super Bowl that was in New York, Denver and the Seahawks, that game was over.
43-8 was the final?
Yeah, that game was over in like 4 minutes. That's not and that's the premier game that we have. And you've seen the NFL has catered a lot of their stuff to offenses, the fantasy stuff, the betting stuff too. You don't think that's helped the NFL be as popular? Like, bro, why else are you watching Jaguars Titans on a Thursday Night Football? It's because you play fantasy and because you could bet on it. It's not like some of those games are shitty, but that's a big reason why they embrace some of these new changes where I think baseball is a little hesitant, and they also cater a lot of things to the people that, quite frankly, might just not give a fuck anyway.
Do you think, at the end of the day, to wrap this up, you can't bet pro wrestling, can you?
There are some places,
As someone who knows betting, would you bet on professional wrestling? Given that it is like changing at the very last second sometimes, and it's storyline based, and it's not quote unquote real.
Yeah, you can't make bets like that at real legitimate sports books. There might be some like offshore websites that you could, but because of that, right? Like you can't go up to the win and be like, "Hey, man, I want to bet on Sami Zayn tonight." They're gonna be like, "Get out of my face!" Like we're not gonna take that kind of action because a lot of it's also exotic props during the Super Bowl. Are they gonna show Giselle in the box at some point? Right? It's like, well, if Giselle is half in the screen, does that count? If she's in the background, we see her, but they're highlighting Robert Kraft. Does that count, or does it have to be Giselle, supermodel, and that's the lower third that flies? Sportsbooks don't take that. A lot of sportsbooks, they want actual evidence that could be archived and go back and not have to watch a whole game and commercials to see it. They want box score analytics for you to be able to see that Mahomes had 182 yards in the Super Bowl. That's a fact. We know that. It's recorded. 20 years from now, we could go back to Super Bowl 57 and we could see that. So I don't think you could bet. There are some places that you could do like Royal Rumble pools, which are pretty interesting and fun, where it's like, if there's 10 of us, we'll each draw 3 numbers from a hat, and we don't know what number. We don't know what wrestler we're getting. You might have 1, 27, and 30, but you don't know if all right. We all know Cody's coming out. He's winning it.
Yeah.
But is he coming out at 14? Is he coming out at 28? We don't know. Like those are cool, and there have been some sports books in the East Coast that have offered that. Like you get to bet on the number that comes out. But for the most part, when it's predetermined and it's scripted or choreographed, however you want to define it, no, you can't bet on that.
Yeah. If I gave you 2 scenarios for tonight, Sami Zayn, somehow just because of the crowd reaction where they're going with creative, they put the titles on him tonight. I don't think that's going to happen. I think it's a 3-year buildup that needs to take place at Mania, the biggest show, in the biggest stadium, in SoFi Stadium. I think it's time. But Sami Zayn's so over right now. If he won tonight, how do you think that gets done?
I think there's going to be some kind of foolishness, some kind of like interference, so then they could have...
There always is.
Yeah. So then they could have the rematch again. But yeah, I don't know, man. There has been a run where, remember when wrestlers just didn't win in their hometowns?
Mm-hmm.
There was a little bit of a run there. So that could be it too. But I think that it'd be super dope if he won in Montreal. Like that would be so sick. It sucks that it's at Elimination Chamber,
That's what
but
I'm saying. It's a low key, like on the road to WrestleMania pay per view that kind
yeah,
of puts the pieces together for the biggest show of the year. But this is arguably the biggest show of the year before the biggest show of the year.
yeah, yeah. No, you're absolutely right. But I think that it's gonna be hard for them to do that because I think they are putting everything towards that now, unless they have Roman drop one of the titles tonight, and then he defends his title against Cody at Mania, and then he tries to win back his title against Sammy. That could be a cool wrinkle in the storyline, especially if like Sammy wins with like a chair shot from KO, like something like that, and it's like you didn't beat me fair and square. No, anyone interferes. You know, like they've done it so many times. Anyone interferes, it's an automatic loss kind of thing, and then you have that at Mania because I think Roman is going to defend on both nights. Like that, I think is pretty obvious, and I know we need to wrap up, but I love that they do Mania on 2 different days now.
Do you?
Yeah.
I think it was too much. It was like an 8-hour program.
I went to
Sundays.
the last Mania in New York, the women main eventing,
Oh, 35?
and we were in MetLife Stadium for 7 hours. That's a lot, bro. That's a lot. You just did a work shift.
Mm-hmm.
and it was cold in New York. Like you needed a hoodie and a jacket or else you were going to be freezing. So that is a long commitment for you to be there.
What was the greatest pro wrestling event you went to? I really turned you on as a pro wrestling fan.
Oh, that I went to? Oh, dude, you're putting me on the spot. I don't have an answer for that, but I can tell you that the first match I ever watched was Mania 13, Bret Hart and Stone Cold. I actually bought a chalk line jacket. I was going to wear it, but I didn't wash it. I was wearing it last week. I was going to wear it to the show today. Next time, that was the match. That was the match for me between Bret Hart and Stone Cold. And ever since then, I've been a Stone Cold guy.
I was like loosely watching because storyline wise, anybody can get hooked to this stuff, I think.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until the Punk Pipe Bomb promo, which was here in Las Vegas at MGM, that really turned me on. Because I remember I was like 11, 12 years old at the time, and I was thinking like, that kind of seemed really real. And you look back at it 12 years ago.
Yeah.
He was right about everything.
Dude, what's crazy is that was what brought me back into wrestling. Because when I really got into football was during my high school years. So like Monday Night Football, I'd watch that over Monday Night Raw. So I didn't watch from like September to December. I just wasn't watching. And then it would always be in the background for me. I'd have Monday Night Raw on or SmackDown on, but then I'd do other shit. Like I might even play Xbox and just have it on a laptop. But when he came out with the Stone Cold shirt, I was already a CM Punk guy. I was like, this is weird. And that brought me back in. I've been following it since.
Wow. I went to the, it was 2 weeks after the Pipe Bomb promo for Punk. It was in Boston. That was the first ever pro wrestling event I ever went to. They did like the CM Punk, Vince McMahon contract negotiation in the ring. And I was able to get ringside seats for that event as like a 12-year-old.
Ice cream bars?
The ice cream bar promo.
Yep.
That was when it kicked off.
Yeah.
I still have that ice cream bar shirt. It's like way too small for me, but I'm like, this is such an iconic shirt.
Yeah.
They don't sell them anymore.
Yeah. Nah, dude, I wish I never threw away my wrestling shirts like growing up. Because I bought an NWO Wolfpack shirt for like $300 vintage at one of those like pop-up shops. It's like, dude, if I used to have one, I could have just kept that.
And they don't make them anymore.
They
You can't get them
don't,
on eBay or anything like that.
Yeah, and it was a WCW edition too. Like it's like one of my prized possessions. That and my Stone Cold vest. I have a real Stone Cold vest.
That you got to wear next time. Bring both.
So
We'll cut two different segments.
one of my buddies is super tapped into WWE, and he was telling me about going to Mania this year. And he's like, "Yo, if I get tickets to Mania, there'll be really good seats." He's like, "You have to just wear your vest." I was like, "That's a layup, bro. You bring me to Mania?" I was like, "I'll wear my vest. No questions asked."
It's gonna be fun. It's SoFi this year.
Yeah,
It's not a 4-hour drive.
yeah, I know. It's I've always wanted to. I've never been to California.
I haven't been to SoFi Stadium yet. Everybody says it's just bonkers.
Yeah, yeah. It's a beautiful arena, man. Stadium, not arena.
Let's sell it short.
Yeah, it's sick, man. I want to go. I want to go bad, and I also want to do I want to try to go to a bunch of football games next year, not just in Vegas, just like traveling. Maybe do like every Monday Night Football game or some shit. I think and then create content off that. I got some things in the works. I I gotta have the conversation with a couple people in there too, since I work here. Also, I can't
A lot
just
of
be
behind the
skipping out.
scenes stuff. A lot's happening out
Yeah.
here. Vegas,
Yep.
LA, Phoenix. A lot going on, guys. Where can the people find you, Nick, to wrap this up? I know my guests are waiting. I don't like pissing people off, so we will not keep them waiting. But where can the people find you?
At Veterans Minimum, as you can find all things VM for my show, and Nick Dais 10.
This is going to be a regular occurrence, my friend. We got to talk
Let's
shop.
do it,
We got to
bro.
talk pro wrestling. A lot's happening. We are officially on the road to WrestleMania. This was episode 617 of the podcast. Remember to comment, like, and subscribe on our YouTube channel at Jack O'Hara TV. Thanks for watching, guys. Ugh.
That was good, man.
No, we could have talked for hours.
I know.